All right, welcome guys. Let's go ahead, pass the mic to Nathan. I'm so excited to learn a little bit more about external auth, which I believe is one of the key features in kgateway. So feel free to take it away, Nathan.
Awesome. Yeah, so I was hoping this would be a little bit cleaner demo. Unfortunately, I have too many hard-coded things in my own external auth server to do quite as deep a dive as I was hoping. But what we're going to do today is I'm just going to kick off, give you a quick overview now of what I'm going to quickly talk about, and we'll go from there. Namely, what I'm going to start with is, I don't know how familiar people are with external auth or even kgateway in general. So we're going to try from like a pretty basic standpoint here, right? And we're going to quickly say, where can you find it in the code base if you're interested in contributing, where you can find the docs to sort of understand a little bit more about how you can use it in kgateway. And we'll talk about a little bit of the ecosystem and some opinions I've had around it. So let me just kick off with a screen share here. New computers, 1 second. It does not want to give that to me. I might be right back.
All right, is there any other topics we should be discussing? I assume Nathan may need to work on his computer for a few minutes. All right, let me make sure I admit him. Oh, thank you.
Sorry about that. I did not realize that the first time the Mac gets access, it required me to quit out of the application I was in.
No worries. Thank you so much for doing this. You're just starting your job, so we're very grateful.
Well, so while I try and share my screen here, the sort of impetus for what I wanted to share, which we won't be able to get to today, is I've been doing a bit more with, can you see a screen that shows, there we go.
Yep.
Let me just jump onto this quickly. Yeah, but I have some stuff, some automation that I'm starting to hook into kgateway, but I have a lot of API keys that are not secure in my custom XAuth server, so I don't really share the recording right now, which is a great segue into what is XAuth. And for those who haven't sort of seen this, I mean, so this is the kgateway doc site, and in particular, I did not do this. This is, I think Art might have done it. We can look at the Git blame to see exactly who, but there's this really nice sort of flow and sort of general overview of what this is. If we take our concept of a gateway, right, you don't want any random person to hit all your routes. You want security. It's one of the things that, you know, you're using this for. Okay, so there's a few different methods one could do and use. There's some great talks on YouTube about external auth in general. So one of the things I'm going to be sort of getting to in a second. But most frequently, you're going to have some pretty custom integrations with various IDPs or other things to make sure that all your traffic is secured the way it needs to be. And at least right now, the main way that one would do this in kgateway is with external authentication, authorization, and all those things, auth. So what does this mean? You probably heard the word external, right? So it's not in the gateway, but it makes a call out. This is going to be really important for what we're going to show when we walk through the actual tests, and where you can check for how you can contribute on this. there's someone else who's done more recently with the Gateway API can correct me if the EP on authentication authorization has come closer to being fully accepted. But it makes some assertions around how one should apply these gates to gateway resources. But let's just jump in straight to the test that you can look at. Oh yeah, I have a little script I was using with Whisper, but just to jump into the code here.
Can you make the font a little bit bigger?
Oh, sure, yeah, that's a great question. Is this legible at this point?
Maybe one more or two more. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that was good.
Awesome. So let's just, and once again, this is going to be a little bit of history of what XDOF is, but also I just want to point everyone to where you can see some examples. The reason I'm getting here is not that we're going to step through every line of code, but instead one of the great things that you'll see in right now, I have some legacy naming issue there, but don't worry about that. What's interesting here is there's a tree, which is test Kubernetes EDE features. And if you go in, and this is really what I want to call out, because this is going to be really important for anyone who wants to add to tests, or even just wants to see some quick examples that you know are really well tested because, well, they're in the tests. And there's this pattern here where the resources that you care about, the things that you can literally apply to your Kubernetes cluster and see the same things. If you don't want to run any Go code, you can still apply these and see exactly what's happening, right? So I just lost where we were. Give me a second, sorry. You'll see the resources that we set up. You'll see, we're going to come back to this in a second. But basically you set up some external authorization server, and then you apply, excuse me, either on a gateway or on a route. You might apply something. So why might you make an insecure route? Well, one of the use cases that we were thinking of is, hey, I want everything to be secure, but I want my health route to not require any authorization. That's a pretty common use case. So while the naming here maybe doesn't lean into any one use case, you can sort of see that setup. So let me, I literally have this test running. You can see I did transcribe stuff, and just for sake of time, I've already set up a quick space here. Let me kill one of these. Hopefully this one has all the right values on it. Hopefully this is legible. But yeah, so I have gateway set up. What we're going to show is with the current XDOF server, it's very simple. It's just looking for this header. We'll leave some more information at the end of this, so don't worry too much for that for right now. So what we're going to show is that we can have a secure route, an insecure route, and it will delegate out. Sorry, let me actually also, we're doing it a little bit in real time here. I just want to show the logs as well of this one here. So I have XDOF running test. I think it's test, right? Yeah. Did I? Sorry. And when we do the same thing, right? Things ran a little longer than I thought here. Sorry, one more second. now we can do it. Did I not? 1 second. So, 8080. So I'm just making it so I can actually hit my proxy. What did I do wrong here? Sorry. Someone can chime in from the crowd if they want to. Kgateway test, of course.
So you're trying to port forward the gateway so that you can run the curl command?
Yeah, so I actually, I thought I had that set up, but.
Oh, it's working now.
Yeah, so, and then, so what we can see is, this decision, so we'll just make it not. You'll see that we've annotated all the stuff. That's all coming from our backend. Great, awesome. And we can see even more interestingly, right? So this request went to that external server. So that's that. So once again, you can go and look at these things, see how it's set up. But the thing that I really wanted to share, why I've been taking a lot more time just going through normal sort of process of how do you use something that's set up, is really this part. So for testing kgateway, we're currently using an image which comes over from Istio. That's just because most orgs, and if you're getting enterprise support from somewhere, a lot of places will have their own really like functional server that you can use that will integrate with whatever you want. In this case, you can roll a simple server. Sorry, it's this one here. So if you want to go and see what's generating the image, right? It's a pretty little thing that as long as it returns this check response with a decision, that's the crux of it, right? So request comes in, hits your proxy, kgateway proxy, then routes it over to your special authorization server that does whatever business logic you want, integrates with whatever output you want. Personally, I have a key cloak instance locally, but I'm still hard coding a few things. The callbacks were getting a little bit more annoying than I wanted. So maybe at some future time, it might be something I hope to sort of put up as a sample repo. But in this case, we see it's just returning that it's either allowed or denied, with the actual check being this check statement. That's pretty much it. Are there any questions or things we can sort of dive more deeply into at this time?
So how do you, sorry, I think you might have filled this before. So how do you actually config the routes the request would go to external auth was not. I know you just showed us how you set up the external auth server.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I sort of jumped over that. All right. So let's look at the secure route. So if, let's say you wanted to have sort of the security apply in general, right? We have this route, and we've applied a traffic policy, which hits this extension ref. So this is one of the setups that currently uses extension ref. Someone else might know better than I do how many there currently are, but I think there's like 3 or 4 different sort of extensions that are in play. I could check this, but we can do it after. But what does that mean? What is an extension ref, right? So that's another thing, which is this gateway extension. And this is where you're actually specifying what you want to hit. So let's just quickly step through what this file says, right? This is where, if we look at this first part, we have a service and a deployment, which are just basically letting us run this simple XAuth server, which is what we went over and looked at in GitHub, right? So that's, at least in here, is the Istio one. There's some other ones out in the wild, and like for example, I'm hoping to put something up later that will just integrate with Keycloak and everything, so that's what I'm using for some local stuff, but I haven't gotten to a clean enough state. So you have just that definition, and then you have something that references it and has some additional information. I think the EP while the design document, to use like more general language, does exist for gateway extensions, sort of specifying what they have. Mostly, my understanding is that they still mostly are just a way, or one of the major things they do is help you point to some destination, some service for that extension, along with some other information. But at least in this example, all we're doing is just saying, this is where my deployment of XDoth is. And once again, to do that, we just added this stanza to a traffic policy, which references that extension. So there's a few steps, but it's important because we also want to be doing things like make a route purposely insecure. And so being able to do that in sort of this way without having to worry as much is nice as well.
Is it correct you can only do the reference to the extension by name, but not by label in this case? That you have to be explicit about the name?
Yeah, so it's just using the extension ref, and I don't think that supports labels, at least last time I checked, and I haven't seen anything that merges that changed that. If it is like if it's not, if the form factor is not great and we want to do labels, I mean, I think that's something that could definitely be up for discussion.
No, this is great. I just want to understand what's supported and not supported.
Yeah.
I think this is such an important feature. Yeah, thank you so much for contributing to the kgateway project for this.
It's really interesting as well for those of you, like, this is a great starting point, right? Hitting XDoth, making all your stuff secure is pretty amazing. But just one word of warning, if you're looking at like external authorization authentication and like use the term XDoth and you search for Envoy, which kgateway is Envoy based, you're going to see a lot of, or quite a few integrations as well with XDoth, where it's doing a lot more than just allowing or denying a request. There's a lot of sort of older like things like WAF integration, stuff like that, which rely on the fact that this Envoy feature can do additional processing. But if you're interested in doing something like that, I would recommend instead checking out xproc, which is much cleaner and newer. I know that's sort of more of a niche space, but it is like, if you start searching for this term in general, space, like, you might, if you want to build an integration that does more manipulation to the request and response, definitely recommend going the xproc route.
Yeah, makes sense. Does anyone else have any question for Nathan? All right, we have a question on the chat.
Sorry, go on. Yeah, so before I ran over what Lynn was about to say, yes, we have a question. Can the service run any logic you need? Yeah, it's whatever you want. The constraint is that you have to receive these check requests and give some check response with it. And what does that mean? It means that the amount of manipulation that you can do on the request response is smaller, versus the xproc or external processing will allow you to do even more steps. But in either case, message from the proxy comes into your service, you do whatever you want, and then you just respond with a compliant response, right? So actually, let me throw up the screen share real quick again. And what we can do, hypothetically, should be coming up in just a second. Right, so if you go to this thing here, which is just what we're currently using, I think anyone should feel free to contribute a kgateway test XAuth, or if you have a really cool one that you roll, maybe that's something that we can use instead. But this function, right? Let me make it bigger so it's actually legible. I've almost learned my lesson, I swear. Right, it can do whatever it wants, and then once it's made its decision, it just returns allow or deny. But you can imagine doing whatever you want with this check request, right? And if we follow the import of auth v2, we can see exactly what's in that. Now we're getting into more like implementation specific stuff, which is always like, stop me if it gets too off the rails here, but we can sort of just dig into what does this even mean, right? So you can take any of these auto-generated Go things. You could even write something that's non-Go. The proto files exist for you to set up the servers, but at the end of the day, this is what you're getting, and has information around whatever the traffic was, so you can make the decisions you need.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nathan. Looks like that did answer the question from Java. All right. Does anyone have any topic? If not, I'm going to pass the mic to Daniel because he just sent to our Slack channel about this exciting new project, the LLM-D. So maybe Daniel, you can talk a little bit about your thoughts on the project. And I was so excited to hear from you that kgateway is also implementation for the inference gateway. By the way, is the Gateway API inference extension has a new name now, which is the Inference Gateway?
Yeah, so yeah, I think there is some ambiguity in the announcement, but Inference Gateway is meant to specify the collection of technologies where the Gateway API inference extension is one of those pieces of technology within the collection. So it is Gateway API, it's Gateway API inference extension, it's a Gateway implementation, it's VLLM, all right? So kind of all these pieces together. Well, not VLLM, I mean, that's your model server framework, but you kind of get where I'm going with this, and along with what I would expect to see some additional technologies as part of the stack. And really, you know, what this announcement is about is really two things. And number one is inference, right? In today's world of inference, for the most part, you know, users are having to bring together a lot of different pieces to make inference work, and not just work, but when we're talking about production level, highly scalable inference, you kind of have a few different choices. You either kind of settle on the NVIDIA stack, which, you know, they do a great job of making it easy for you, but it kind of ties you into the NVIDIA stack, and, you know, for some people that's great. Or, you know, what we believe in is taking a standards-based approach, right, where Kubernetes becomes kind of the foundation for inference at scale, right? And so, yeah, I urge everyone to take a look at the announcements, to you know, to play around with it, you know, provide us feedback, and to get involved. You know, it's obviously a really exciting time with generative AI and inferences evolving, and it's just such a fast-moving market, with, you know, new technologies being, you know, developed almost on a daily basis. So yeah, when you start to dig in, you're going to see a lot of the best practices that come from the open source community, if it's DeepSeek, if it's VLLM, and so again, just trying to take these pieces together and provide the stack to easily consume, distributed inference for production generative AI applications.
That's great. Thank you so much for that quick overview. I actually went to the website and did a quick search on kgateway, and it's fascinating to see kgateway actually was mentioned in many places on the website, on their GitHub. So that's super exciting. So Daniel, have you tried it yourself?
No, that's the process of doing it right now. So I mean, I got some intel. Was it Monday? Yeah, just yesterday. I got some intel, kind of high level intel, like, hey, be ready for this. And yeah, I mean, this is really cool from a K-gateway standpoint, right? Because it just shows the power of open source that, some other project or user says, wow, what you're doing is pretty cool. We had some visions and made this investment in this capability within K-gateway. And then, unbeknownst to us, some other projects like, wow, the way you guys are doing this makes a lot of sense. And we want to use that as part of something bigger. And even before this announcement, I knew there were some things that were happening just by kind of reading the tea leaves. But just by seeing what's going on in the industry, right? And if we look back at history with new kind of new markets that develop, if it's cloud computing or mobile or what have you, right? It starts off with this rush and all these tools being developed, and then it's like, okay, if you want to create a solution, you got to bring all these tools together and figure it out and fix bugs, and and then it evolves and starts to mature where it's like, hey, let's bring these things together in a cohesive package. And that's kind of what we're getting at right now. And so, yeah, it's, again, just really exciting. Happy to, to be part of it, and, really urge others that are interested to dive in and contribute, ask questions, and anything I can do to help out, I'd be happy to do so.
Awesome. Sounds like this could be a potential topic in the future to deep dive a little bit on this project and the intersection with K-gateway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nathan, do you have a hand?
Yeah. So it's great to see K-gateway being used in places. That's awesome. I guess one thing that I realized, can someone help steer me to? Is there an issue or something where we're dealing with our changelog? I realized that we had done a 2.0 changelog, but most recently when we've done releases, they don't really have the change description. I know there's a lot of great work done for like the kind categorization, but it's just, if someone wants to, we can talk in Slack in the CNCF or whatever. Just I want to, like, I realized when I was trying to update my home lab, I'm like, I don't quite know what improvements without going into the commit history I'm getting. So yeah, that's just one interesting thing.
Yeah, and Nathan, I think there is a question for you too. I just saw, can a single security policy be reused across multiple HTTP route resource? Or is it one policy required per route?
So one interesting thing is that really what you're doing is in the traffic policy, you're specifying where to shoot the request, but you're not necessarily doing by default, depending on what your external server is doing, how you truly have like a full security policy, I think is still an interesting question. Because for simple setups, right? Yeah, you can reuse them. Great. You pointed all these things are going to the same server. Fantastic. But then, yeah, you can do something based off the request itself that's come through. But what's interesting is like, how am I easily configuring any route-specific security policies or things like that? I think there's still some open question around what is the right form factor for K-gateway to take. And if you have strong opinions, love to hear them and love, create an issue, create a design. If you want, implement it, any of these things, pick your level of it, because I think a lot of people have thought about it. But I know I don't really have a great answer today until we play around and try a few more setups. I can say personally, I'm trying to do some extra plumbing where I have resources that sort of are tied to it, but it's not a great setup currently in mind, and I think other people have thought more about it.
All right, sounds like a topic needs more exploration. So folks, we are a few minutes over, so thank you all for joining. Next week, I will be traveling. If somebody else can host the call, I would really appreciate that. All right, thanks everybody, and see you all later. Bye.